Hi, I'm Andrew McNair, here today to talk to you about everyone's favorite subject, taxes. Can you claim tithing on your taxes as a charitable contribution? How much can you claim, and what does all that IRS lingo actually mean? Is paying taxes biblical? I'll answer all of these questions and more in today's video. But let's start with that last question. Let's get that out of the way. I've heard it many times. It's not right for me to pay taxes. I shouldn't pay the government more than I pay God. Is paying taxes even biblical? Some believers are torn on whether or not they should pay taxes, and they really resent paying taxes because we have a secular government. That blows my mind because even Jesus paid taxes. The Gospel of Matthew recorded this for us. Then when he was asked, "Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not?" he made the famous statement, "Therefore, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." Even in a very secular government, the Roman Empire, Jesus said, "Pay your taxes." Paul also enforced the importance of paying taxes in his letter to the Romans. He instructed, "Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment." Romans 13, 1-2. So mind you, both Jesus and Paul were under the Roman government, which subjugated Israel, crucified Christ, and was even persecuting Christians in Paul's day. Yet even through this persecution, God is commanding us to pay our taxes, to have allegiance to and intercession for our governing authorities. We should be praying for them. How much more should Christians pay taxes today? We should be happy taxpayers because God commanded us to do it. So back to claiming tithing on your taxes. The IRS allows you to claim qualified charitable donations as tax deductible. So what does this mean? When a donation is tax deductible, the amount you give is deducted from your taxable income, so you don't pay taxes on that amount, which is fantastic that the government allows us to give to charities and to church because they will take care of the needs of the people. So claiming your tithe as a tax-deductible amount reduces the amount of taxes that you need to pay. To say it another way, you're exempt from paying taxes on financial contributions that you make to qualifying organizations, a 501c3 nonprofit, which a church should be. You can claim a deduction of up to 60% of your income, but you can't claim just any donation as a charitable donation. You have to make sure that it's a church or a nonprofit that you give to has a 501c3 status, which means they're a tax-exempt charitable organization. As long as your church is registered as a 501c3, any donations that you make as tithes or offerings are tax deductible. Now, how does this all work? According to the IRS, you may deduct a charitable contribution made to any organization that are qualified under the Section 170C of the Internal Revenue. Section 170 states that contributions to certain types of organizations are deductible by the donor as an itemized deduction. Now, keep in mind, you want to make sure that your charity or this church is classified as a 501c3, or you would not get a deduction. You can claim the taxes as long as you itemize more than your standard deduction. The standard deduction can change, and it will change. Now, if you don't give above the standard deduction amount, you should just take the standard deduction. So currently for a single person, it's $12,950. And for a joint filed tax return, it is $25,900. The IRS also has a tax-exempt organization search if you're unsure if your church or charity is a 501c3 and that it qualifies. We've actually put a link to the website below so you can go right to that link. Now, typically your church will mail or email you a year-end giving statement so you know exactly how much you gave that you can deduct as a charitable contribution. Now, a great thing to do is to compare your total gross earnings on your W-2 with your year-end giving statement to make sure that you are tithing the full 10% to your local church. If not, it's time to make some adjustments in the new coming year. I always like to tell people, if you brag about gross, you should be tithing on gross. So why does the IRS give you a charitable deduction option? Well, because it wants you to be generous. Can you believe that? The government actually wants you to be generous. So why is that? Because America was founded on the philosophy that we as citizens know what's best for our community. We know what our community needs. We know best as citizens. The government doesn't know what we need. They don't know how to manage their own money. They don't know how to redistribute wealth as well as we do, because we are the hands and the feet in our community. Local churches should be funded by their local congregations so those funds can make a difference in the community. And here's the beauty of the church. It makes a difference for their earthly needs as well as their spiritual needs. It provides water, but also water they'll never run out of. The early church was a great example of this. It says in Acts, there was not a needy person among them. For as many as were owners of lands or houses sold them and brought the proceeds of what was sold and laid it at the apostles' feet. And it was distributed to each as they had need. It is our job as the church to help the needy, to help the orphan, the widow, the imprisoned. That is our job as the church. The individual Christians gave to those apostles who redistributed those donations to the poor and the needy and the less fortunate among them. Lastly, the IRS is never going to provide more than physical help to the needs of citizens. Like I was talking about before, as Christians, we give because we know the gospel changes people from the inside out. It changes people's emotional and spiritual health. It makes an eternal impact, not just a here earthly impact. Now, I want to thank you for watching this video, but if you want to learn more how you can give more, how you can be more philanthropic to the needs of your community and missions and ministries that you may not be aware of, stay tuned and click subscribe so you don't miss future videos. Also, be sure to check out our podcast, Rich, Young, and Powerful, where we highlight and spotlight philanthropists who started out just like you. They started out potentially with no money, but they built a great business. They had a great career in sports, and they dedicated their platform and possessions to the greater gospel and the help of people's earthly needs. And so you can check out that by going to iTunes, Spotify, and checking out our podcast, Rich, Young, and Powerful. If you want to hear my story about how I went from the greediest person you'd probably ever have met to generous, pick up a copy of The Giving Crisis by clicking the link below. Now, remember, until next time, invest your life into something that will outlive it. Now that's living to give.